Welcome to the Ateh Podcast, where you'll experience the unfiltered and inspiring world of impact-driven women business owners. I'm your host, Mary Grace Iniguez, a female multi-passionate entrepreneur and the owner of Social Register Network, and I'm on a mission to ignite the power within you. Here at the Ateh Podcast, we're all about sharing authentic stories, both the triumphs and the challenges, because it's through our life experiences that we can truly impact others. I believe that by opening up and embracing vulnerability, we can empower ourselves and those around us. So grab your headphones and let's celebrate the resilience, passion, and the determination of each impact-driven women business owner. Remember, your story is the spark that can light up the world. Let's make an impact and ignite the power within you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ateh Podcast. This is Mary Grace again, your host, and I am so excited for you to hop into this episode because I have a very special Ateh in my heart who I've actually known for quite some bit, but we just recently, maybe in the last year, reconnected and really got to know each other and see how we can support each other. I actually met her. I didn't meet her, but I've heard of her, I would say about 10 years ago. She is a well-renowned publicist here in Las Vegas, and I've just seen her do so many great things for our members here, for local businesses out here. And so I've kind of been fangirling over this woman. And I'm so excited to bring her on because she has life experiences, business experience, and also she's going to become your Ateh today. So without further ado, Ruth Furman, welcome to the Your Ateh Podcast.
Oh, this is delightful. So happy to be here. And I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank you. And when you first told me that, I was like, what? You know who I am? Because I'm literally fangirling over you. I'm not a creeper or anything, but I've just seen you online on LinkedIn or other members sharing who you are and what you've done for them and what you've, helped them in their business. And you know me, and you're the same too, is we're out here trying to impact the community. And so anyone else who's doing that is just truly in alignment to me.
Same. And people who are helping others with no expectation, which I see you doing all the time.
Thank you. So Ruth, I want to know more. So just like everybody else listening today, I want to know more about you. So Ruth, tell me more about yourself and pretty much how you got started in becoming a PR.
Well, I started my career as a journalist. I was a journalism major in college. I grew up in the Midwest. I was a journalism major, and I always thought I would always be a newspaper or magazine reporter. And I was for a while. Right out of college, I got a job in a magazine, and I worked at newspapers in internships and that kind of thing. I was always had freelance writing side hustles because I always loved sharing stories. So what happened is I got an opportunity to do some promotional oriented content for the magazine, and I loved it. So then I ended up getting a corporate PR job that I really enjoyed. And then I moved to Las Vegas and had the opportunity to officially open my own public relations firm. And that happened a few years after I moved to Vegas. That happened in 2001. So I've had my own PR and marketing firm since 2001. And sometimes I'm sort of like the outsourced marketing department. Sometimes I just help clients amplify their voices and their expertise with news media. It really just depends on what the client needs. And then I'm a boutique agency, so I expand or contract my business based upon what the client needs and their size and scope.
Oh, that sounds so fun. And I can see it in you every day, obviously, and just showing up as yourself. And, I always see your outfits and I'm like, oh, she's so fun. I just love it. If you're my PR person, but before you were, I was like, I just want her as my PR person because she's so fun. She'll be out of the element and really align with how I want to show up in the world. So you talked about being in the corporate before actually launching and becoming your own business. What was that transition for you? And when did you decide to do that? Because I'm sure it wasn't easy, right?
No, and it really was. It wasn't easy, and it's still not easy because I feel like I'm challenged every day in every situation to kind of like not mold myself because I am who I am, but mold my offerings and my services to what the clients need. So when you're in corporate PR, you sort of have a different reporting structure and a different strategy for promotions and putting the news out there. Usually, in my case, I had a large team that I was working with. And then when I started my own business, I just decided right away I wanted a lot of variety. I didn't want to only have certain types of clients or only have one big client. Early on in my business, I had a few big clients. And that was really great because it was very comforting financially to know that I was getting a few big checks a month. That was really nice. Then later in my business, I switched to I do have some of those recurring clients, but I also switched to more of a project basis so that I could work with and help more companies. So it's really been kind of natural for me, but also it's always really uncomfortable because my nature, I like I like the structure and I like things to be really simple. Sometimes I get a little impatient with a lot of conversations, but it's really, really necessary in my business now to have all the conversations and be sure that even if I think something's a good idea and something is valuable to you as a client, I've got to be sure it aligns with what you want to promote and when you want to promote it.
Yes, you just hit on something that is very common in our entrepreneur journey is having conversations or really building the relationship in anything you do, just like you with your clients and finding out, okay, how do you want to show up? What is the goal here? And having multiple conversations. You and I off camera talked about building relationships or having conversations. And maybe sometimes, because I do this too, where I have assumptions where I'm like, oh, well, maybe they're not interested or maybe we're not aligned and whatnot. What are some key tips that you could give around that? Because I know for entrepreneurs, whether you're seasoned or new, those are still things we have in the back of our mind when we're having these conversations.
Well, as entrepreneurs and even just as women in life, it's really interesting. And I've really learned that a lot as I've been working remote more and spending more time with my mom. I just see kind of how she shows up, and I'll have certain assumptions about something that she might want, something that she might like, but it's really getting clear on, okay, you're not so crazy about this type of brownie. I'm going to make you the double chocolate brownie and we're going to have a warm brownie sundae. So warm brownie sundaes, PR, it's all, it all kind of interrelates. So yeah, for me, in my experience, I very recently kind of came up with a new formula that I use with existing clients. And I'll ask them, before I kind of define what I'm going to do with them PR wise and strategy wise, what percentage of your business comes from this versus this? What are you looking to grow? And what do you feel that you do that people do not know about?
Ooh.
And also, What do you make the most money on? What's the most profitable for you, right? Because, I might think, this is super newsworthy right now, but it might not be something that the client really has budget for. So in the past, I used to take that really personally. This is awesome. This is amazing news coverage. Why aren't you excited about it? But now I realize it's really not personal. It's just not something that they want to make noise about, or it's something that they have no budget for.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It goes back to asking the right questions. And I love that you have a strategy when you go into clients, because a lot of people share with me that they have a tough time maybe with sales and understanding, or I think a lot of people share that I'm not a salesperson. I'm not good in sales, but honestly, you're just asking the wrong questions or you're talking to the wrong people, right? The people who are not in alignment with you and what you offer.
And as you know, Mary Grace, because we've done some, TV segments together, the news media works at a really fast pace, right? So
Yes.
me, sometimes I'm like, okay, they need to interview you by 11:30 a.m. You got to, let's have this conversation. You got to be a fast no. But I have to kind of not sell them, but explain, here's why I think that it would be beneficial for you to do this interview. And here is how I would recommend you weave this in. And here is how you can repurpose the content after. So I really have to, no matter how rushed I am, I have to pause and give them 3 bullet points if it's a text, or have a quick call and really get clear, because otherwise in the past I've had arguments with clients that have been uncomfortable. Oh, I thought I was helping you. I didn't realize I would have to pay for it. So I really, and in that, as we discussed off camera, I'm the kind of person that likes to be liked. I like that external reinforcement. I like to be valued. So it's really taken me a lot of time. I'm in my 50s now and I'm finally getting it. It's not about me. It's about value, and it's about helping the client understand. It's about me taking the time to understand what's a win for them. And the same thing goes in friendships or in my volunteer commitments. It's really pausing and having that conversation. Better face to face, at minimum by phone. Text and email, bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think that texting and emails can totally be misconstrued, like because you don't hear tone, you just kind of are just reading words, and you're reading it in your tone and what you're imagining how it's coming off. So I agree with you. No texts or no emails about anything like that. So how did you overcome not making it personal about you? Because I think a lot of us, especially us women, right? We internalize a lot of decisions, conversations, all of the things.
Yeah, that is something that I work on every day. That is something I work on every day. But I think that I'm just stepping into this place of confidence that I have never been in before, because I really, really do know the value of what I offer in all of my relationships. And if after a couple conversations, for whatever reason, my services, my offerings, who I am or how I work is not a fit for someone I'm talking to, I'm willing to move on. And I'm the kind of person, I'm a runner. I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to quit before the finish line, but I'm willing to. Sometimes I'm willing to, if I just feel someone's not aligned, or it's the wrong timing for me or for them.
Oh, yeah. Timing is a huge part, because myself on my journey too, it was always like, well, you love it. You love our product. You love our service. You're always here. You keep coming back. And I was internalizing a lot of that too. It was the thoughts of like, well, are they trying to take advantage, or is it not good enough? Right. And then as the business owner, like you, as the business owner of your agency, you start to look internally like, okay, well, what am I doing? What am I saying? And at the end of the day, sometimes it's just not the right time, or it's not in alignment. And I don't like to say this, but it's sort of like you both dodged a bullet, because you probably wouldn't work together very well anyways. And God, universe, whatever you believe, is kind of like letting you both know.
Yeah.
Kind of like that bad relationship.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There's this great book I read called The Beautiful No, and by a woman named Sherry Salata, who is an amazing thought leader that I follow and I know personally. But you really, I feel like I've gotten to the point in my business that I realize that like every no really is beautiful. And every door that closes after it's already kind of been open a little bit and you think you already have a gig, it really is beautiful. And it really does kind of, like they say, rejection is redirection. I don't know. I'm kind of in a good headspace about it going into, this year.
Yeah.
is just really just trusting, but also being sure. I just got an email very early this morning from a client that I just love working with, explaining kind of what her priority is and what she wants. And, we'll have a conversation. And if that's something that my team and I can deliver, great. If not, I'll tell her what I can do and I'll recommend other resources for the other things she needs.
Oh, I love it. See, there's always a good to the no. And I always, like you just said, is it's redirection. And also after a no, and sometimes after 50 no's, it's making way for that huge yes, yes that you're like, oh my God, this is my dream client. I would work with a million of you, right? When it comes to being an entrepreneur, what are some things that you've gone through? Because you've had your business, we're in 2024, so 23 years. What are some things that you've gone through as an entrepreneur through all those years?
Well, I would say that I have been, I tend to be a little dramatic. I've been fired a bunch of times. So I've had clients that have, terminated services very abruptly. And I remember one time, I'm aging myself, Mary Grace, because it was a fax. I got a fax terminating services. And it was purely because of budget. But I remember at the time, I sent them a fruit bouquet and I said, it's okay. I loved working with you. And this is one of my big retainer clients at the time. But that happened. And then they ended up rehiring me. So that's so awesome.
Oh, see? Yes. Don't burn your bridges.
That happened.
It's a reminder.
Yeah. That happened to another big fish client in the real estate industry. I mean, as you know, the real estate industry, especially in our community, it's crazy. And I've had real estate clients rehire me for projects. So I think for me, that happened. I also feel as if I went through a lot of periods of time where in my business where I just was not marketing myself at all because times were so good. I was getting so many right fit referrals. I didn't even need to market myself. The business was just flowing to me. So most recently in 2020, right when pandemic hit, I lost a bunch of business. And I didn't know how to navigate that. I was really fear-based, but we were all kind of in the same boat. Yeah. So I just decided to radically put myself in a position to help as many people as I could by sharing their stories in the news media.
Yeah.
And a very large percentage of that, nationally as well as locally, was something that I did no charge. But it kept me working. It kept me, energized, positive. I'm the kind of person, I love to be helpful. So it's an asset as well as a detriment sometimes because I constantly have to have those money conversations or I wouldn't have a roof over my head. So I definitely had a lot of rejection. I've had a lot of left turns in my business because of the real estate market. So because of that, now I really, truly have diversified my business. And I have clients in different categories. I'm not all real estate. I'm not all, entertainment, restaurants. I'm very, very diverse. And I do have this project-based business. And I also have clients nationally and not just in Las Vegas.
Yes. And I love that because it is about diversifying because times have changed. And ever since the pandemic, people are doing business different, even when it comes to marketing and PR. I love that you mentioned that because there's a lot of things put out there, right? About you should niche down to one and this main one. And I've never done that because I've hired different coaches and the question would always be, well, who is that niche? Like, okay, you say it's a business owner, an entrepreneur, but who, what, and where are they type of thing. And I'm always like, it has nothing to do with category, it has nothing to do with size. It really has something to do with heart for me. What are their intentions in their business? Is it impactful, mission driven? And I think when it comes to niching down, I think that's the most important thing to think about, not being like, well, I'm only doing PR for realtors. I'm only doing PR for this because guess what? Just like a table, if not all of them are secure, the legs, if one breaks off and then all four are dependent on real estate and real estate goes down, because that's just how it is sometimes, then your whole table breaks and falls and you're just left with nothing, right? And then you're left to pivot. Then you're left to pivot and start over.
Yes. So I do have some favorite industries. I like working with businesses that, and it's going to sound kind of cliche, but I like working and promoting businesses and individuals as experts who somehow in some way help others. They somehow make life better. The information I'm sharing is truly helpful and useful. And I think that's one reason in the last few years I've added a number of clients in healthcare, mental health, as well as home services businesses. And then there also are certain types of businesses that are just infinitely newsworthy, right? So I always have some of those in my mix that are opted into my project pricing.
What made you go in that direction? Like you want to serve businesses who help other people. Is there something near and dear to you?
I think it is because of some stuff that went on with me personally. I went through early menopause. I'm very open about it in 2012. And I had a real tough go at it. I had some real mental health challenges at the time. I went through something called foot drop as well, which is a physical thing that may have been partially manifested mentally. And I realized that I was consuming a lot of information online, and I was, I felt really stuck, and I felt that there was a real stigma for what was going on with me, and I was very secretive about it. So I remember saying to myself at that time, I lost a bunch of clients at the time, and I remember saying to myself, someday in some way, I'm really, really going to amplify individuals and companies like the ones that helped me. I get really emotional even talking about it because I had a local orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Watson in Henderson, who was super, super kind to me because I was very anxious about the foot thing. And he was so kind to me. And I was like, someday, years from now, we're going to reconnect and I'm going to be able to help him.
Can you share what was the foot thing? What was the name again?
It's called foot drop. And it is a neurological thing. And all of a sudden, my foot, and at the time I was doing a lot of convention work, my foot, and I'm a high heels girl, my foot was dragging. I couldn't wear normal shoes. I couldn't run, much less walk normally. And I thought it was never going to go away. And my anxiety at the time was really bad because I was on a lot of medications for the early menopause, and a real dark time for me. So that made me really want to help in the mental health and healthcare industry. And then with the home services businesses, I used to have a real problem with clutter. And my old house, before we moved in 2020, clutter, clutter, clutter. I could never have anybody over last minute without hiding things. So I decided, someday I'm going to really be a minimalist and I'm going to be organized. And starting in 2020, I connected with my friend Elena. And actually prior to that, but I really started doing work in the cleaning and organizing business because I realized it helped me, it's going to help others. So it really, the stuff that I love in business and the stuff that I'm really passionate about, a lot of times it has roots personally. And sometimes it's just fun. Sometimes it's just fun. I like ice cream. I did work in with ice cream companies,
oh, how fun.
I love locally owned, woman-owned businesses, especially those that are minority-owned. I have a friend who has a sipping chocolate company who's based in Henderson. So there's really it's just got to be something that I am passionate about and that I find interesting, both the individuals and the businesses. Otherwise, I'm not going to do as good of a job for them.
Ah, yes. I love that you mentioned that because it's going back to your passion and what you love. I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we think we have to steer this direction to the right because no one else is doing it. But actually, no, you're not going to be happy doing that. You might as well do something you love and connect with people that you actually enjoy being around, but also you hit something on the nail about when you work with people that you're actually passionate about supporting and helping, your work is 100 times better, right? That's how I feel about my work too. That's why I'm like, I only want to work with mission-led, heart-centered, and impact because my work is I see it come alive. I'm like, oh my God, the way I'm writing captions, the way I'm designing. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah. And Mary Grace, I'm sure you do too. I have clients in some dry industries, but they're great. They're great people. Yes. So, I think with great people, I can overcome, any hurdle. And I also have some really great freelancers that I can outsource the boring stuff to.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So you're a collaborator too. And that's collaborating that you don't have to, take on everyone, that you can redirect them to someone else that you're working with too. So I love that.
Yeah, or even other PR firms. I think that's another thing that I've learned that you and I have had some conversations about. I have a lot of competition locally and nationally. So I really do try to collaborate. I'll kind of know, oh, this friend of mine who has a PR firm, she represents this nonprofit. I'll have a reporter with a certain need. I constantly refer media opportunities to my competitors. And they do the same thing to me, which makes me really happy. Lindsay, who owns a company here, knows that I represent cleaning services nationwide, and she referred something to me recently. So I really do try to be very collaborative and realize, and that's also a limiting belief of mine, Mary Grace. When I do collaborate with others, I feel like I was always that kid in school who was that lab partner that did most of the work. So I always get a little fear-based, but so now I just don't measure. I just have a lot of conversations when I do collaborate with others.
Oh, I love that you said you don't measure, because in the beginning, that's kind of how I felt too. I mean, throughout my whole life, it doesn't even have to be in business, right? In personal life, I just felt like I was always the one who was, I felt, maybe the other party didn't, right? But I felt like I was doing more or putting all of my heart into it. And I think it's because internally I was measuring. And as soon as I stopped measuring and I was like, you know what, I'm doing this because I want to do this. Like, I want to collaborate. I want to be here. And that's when things changed for me. Because a lot of the things, like I just said, for women, I feel like we internalize everything and it really doesn't have anything to do with us.
No. And I mean, I also think that I call myself an external reinforcement addict, right? So I feel that I sort of shifted. It's very unusual for PR and it's still a little uncomfortable for me, but I had a conversation with the client in North Dakota. And she said, when I share content on social media, I don't want to mention how it happened. So I was like, that is so interesting. She shines brighter without me, right? Without anyone knowing. So then I stopped sharing a lot of my earned media on Facebook, for example. I really want the client to be the one that shines. And I think I shared that with you, with some of our mutual friends. I said, I don't want you to say that this came through me. No one needs to know. I just want people to see you shining. So that's something that has been uncomfortable for me because I want everyone to know I was involved in it. But I'm kind of checking that box in a different way and just really putting ego and external reinforcement aside and knowing that if I'm doing great work and marketing myself strategically with help from individuals like you, that I'm going to have plenty of business.
Yes. And your clients will speak on behalf of you. They are, obviously your clientele is small business and people who are impactful. We're going to tell more people because we hang around the same people, same kind of people. So we're speaking to entrepreneurs, obviously, today. I know that when it comes to PR, because even I had this thought of like, well, I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. What are some things for an entrepreneur who's maybe in their first 2 years of business? What are some things that they should be considering when it comes to public relations?
Well, this is going to sound really basic, but it's not to a lot of people. I say the most important thing, if you're going to do PR, whether it's online, newspapers, radio, TV, you got to have a website.
Yes.
You have to have a website. And I was referred to a friend's friend, a personal trainer, didn't have a website, just had Instagram. But I've been burned in the past when I've had people on TV that haven't had websites because the news station will get a call and, some people don't have, it's hard for me to believe that people don't have Instagram because I love Instagram, but, you've got to have a website. So, and it doesn't have to be, I like to say perfect is the enemy of good, promotion over perfection. So even if it's a brochure site for starters that has a way to reach you, and a little bit of information about you, and then you can grow from there. But I like to say at the very beginning, you got to have a website, and there are some great resources for that if you don't have thousands of dollars. So you got to have a website. You've got to be on social media because if you're not.
Yes, heard that here from Ruth.
If you're not, there's really, you can't really effectively share your earned media coverage. And then there is a book I recommend by a woman named Nicole Myden, Mynden, Myden. Myden. It's called You Are Worthy of Publicity. And I met her on Instagram, and I haven't met her in person yet, but I found this book to be a game changer. And she also gives some really good recommendations. Not everyone has the budget or wants to hire a firm like mine. And, they want to make some noise themselves, and it's very doable. So I recommend that book, You Are Worthy of Publicity by Nicole Myden. And website, social media, read that book. And then also kind of ask yourself a couple of very basic questions. And I do this in my intake, what do you want to be an expert on? Obviously, you would love a big 4-minute story on the news about your business, but why now? Why do we care? What are you an expert on? What expertise can you share? And what about you or your business is different or relevant? There's another website I love. It's called the National Days Calendar. You can always tie yourself into things that are going on a given day, month, or week. Whether it's National Heart Month or, whatever may be going on. We're recording this near the spring. So I'll be doing a lot of spring cleaning stories for my clients. Healthcare in the summer, we did a story about the heat and working out. So constantly think about your expertise and how that relates to what's going on in your community or nationally. Why do we care now?
Yes. Those are some awesome tips, because I have several clients because we handle their marketing, and a lot of them always come to me, and I think I've sent some of them to you, and they're like, well, I just want to go on the news because I want to let everyone know I'm here, and I want to know that I'm here and here and here. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have you talk to Ruth, but it has to be relevant with now, like what is going on, what is newsworthy now, because a lot of us, and again, even when it comes to networking, when it comes to PR, when it comes to everything, it's never about us. It's how we can bring value to X. And you just said it right there. When it comes to your newsworthy, it has nothing to do with your business, but what kind of value do you bring to that's relevant to now in that time?
And then, and as far as your business, it's like, what are you willing to talk about? Okay. I constantly getting texts and emails. I just got one this morning from a reporter whose source canceled, and she needed a derm to talk. And I do have a client who is a nurse practitioner, dermatologist expert. So it's like, great. So, but it's like, a lot of times I find that news media, especially now, and that's why I started this new division that I've been playing with, a lot of things are about what's hot online, right? What are the search words? What are people interested in? And what's hot in pop culture? What can you comment on? You, Mary Grace, you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and there's a big event, in one of your markets that you're working in. How does that impact entrepreneurs? You're the expert, and you can have some of your clients, be the faces of the story. It's another thing I do a lot is I find characters for stories where the journalist may already have an expert, but they just need, they need the single mom or the family with 7 kids in CCSD, Clark County School District, for those that are watching this nationally, to talk about changes and back to school. So it's really also about figuring out yourself, like what is going on in your life in addition to your business that makes you an expert. And that's a good way to get yourself on the news.
I agree. You just reminded me. So there was one that we did together and you called me, but in the beginning, I was like, well, this doesn't make sense because, I'm not an expert in that, right? And it was actually during the hot months, and it was talking about working out and eating well and all these things. And I was like, that doesn't, and then I was like, oh, it's because I do the Move My Ass challenge and how I'm getting women on board to join me. I'm like, duh. And so that's where I made the correlation. It's sometimes not directly towards your business, but it's things that you're doing and who you are as a human being. Because I also built a relationship with a news reporter here on Fox 5. She no longer lives here. She actually moved back to the Bay. I connected her with her once. She had me on her do like a segment about, it was it was actually Women History Month. And because I was doing women events, there was something that happened on the strip where they were talking about, okay, I mean, come on, girls, y'all listening, it's all women here. We were talking about the strip clubs. And I guess one of the signs said something about, if you need da 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 da, then we're hiring. Like if you need a job, we're hiring. And so she wanted to interview me because I was empowering women and I was doing events around empowering women. She wanted my intake on that side. And so from there, she came to me about different things where during the pandemic, my son was actually graduating. He was a senior in high school. And she was like, hey, I know you have a son, a senior in high school. I actually have his principal who's being interviewed. And she's like, I would love to hear from a parent's side of what are your thoughts about graduation. And so it's most, like you just said, it's you as an individual, and then it's how you're bringing value to the community. I think that we have to reframe that. Sometimes when you show up at a networking event, you're doing marketing, want some publicity to you in your business. It's not directly you coming on the mic and being like, hi, I'm the owner of Social Register and this is what I do. It's not always that, right?
Yes. And, that's really been interesting for me. And, when I joined your group recently, I was like, I'm socially awkward, and it's got social in the title. I don't know about this, my friend, but one of the things that I've really done since I made that statement is I've been kind of like, how can I be less awkward? And so I have really started this practice. When I see people I haven't seen in a while at a networking event, I do work in a lot of different industries, commercial real estate, for example. How is your mom?
Mm-hmm.
I remember you see your mom every Saturday. How is your mom? How is your daughter? So I'll ask about people's families. I'll ask about, I won't bring up work. And I did that recently at an event about a month ago with like 3 different people, and just having conversations, not thrusting my business card at them. And 2 of them were like, oh yeah, we need to talk. I have this project. So I find that, being just a human that's interested and caring. And then to your point, with the news media, you want to be that go-to. And I love it when people come to me time and time again, because they know that I'll help them. Even if it's not one of my clients, they know I'm going to find that random source that's going to help for their story. And that's the kind of thing with my own clients. I don't always charge for that. I do a lot of, I call them NBVA, that stands for non-billable value adds. So I do a lot of non-billable value adds. If one of my regular clients has a kid that's doing something, or, I really try to be a part of their family and their communities and what they're passionate about.
That's why we align, because that's how I do business too. And everyone in the network, that's how majority of us do business, is how can we be there for the other person and really getting to know them? Because I love that you ask, hey, how is your mom? I know we last spoke. Those are things that I remember too. A lot of the times, it's not that I don't remember your business, but I remember the meaningful conversation we had. Then I'm reminded of your business. Right. And that's why those conversations are so important, and really being genuine about it, like caring for other people.
Yeah. And something that I've learned, that's really, really important. And I know that my energy sometimes, when I have stuff going on or when I've lost a client, my energy can naturally seem a little urgent or desperate. And I always remind people that my urgency is not your emergency. It is not your job to find me a client. If I'm, and sometimes you've got to be patient, and I'm not naturally patient. You got to keep showing up. You've got to keep putting positive content out there, and you've got to keep serving your communities. And, I say communities because you and I both work in multiple communities and multiple industries. So yeah, patience is another thing I've really, really been working on.
I'm the same way. I could relate. when I know that I want to do this, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it myself because I can't wait for anyone else. But that's definitely a learning experience that I'm navigating, right? Because we can get so much done when we get help to help us.
Yeah. And it's just like if sometimes you or I, we might think something is a total no-brainer. One of my clients had this amazing opportunity yesterday and I kept waiting to hear back. I finally heard back and it was a no. And I was like, I respect your no. I'll stand down and I'll follow up with you in a week and a half. So I let them know it's not now, but it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, Ruth, you have a special place in my heart. You know that. And when we connected, I was just like, oh my God. I mean, you were the same too. We're like, oh my God, we need to connect. And we just live both, productive lives and, taking care of our family. And so I'm just so glad that we were finally able to connect. But I would love for you to share one tip because you've dropped so many nuggets today that I know that a woman could use today, whether it comes for their personal development, being a woman entrepreneur. Can you leave us with one tip? And then I would love for you to drop all of your information so they can get connected.
One tip I would give, I think, is this is a cliche. Comparison is the thief of joy. Run your own race. Those are things I remind myself of constantly. There are a lot of real shining lights in my life and in my business. And I really don't let myself compare myself to anyone else. I take things from others and try to integrate those. But yeah, comparison is the thief of joy. Run your own race. And I think this is an Oprah line. Don't look behind you to see what the other person is doing. Go forward. And
yes,
I'm on all the social media. My website is just my name. It's ruthfurman.com, ruthfurman.com. There is a contact me through my website if anyone has any questions about like some of the books I mentioned or anything like that. Then I am Ruth Furman on LinkedIn, which is a platform I use a lot for business. Instagram is Ruthie Furman. And then on Facebook, I'm Image Words and then Ruth Hamburg Furman. So that's me.
All right. And we'll make sure to drop all of your information in the description. Ladies, I just highly recommend that you connect with Ruth, whether you're looking for PR or not right now. I think she's a great connection to have. As you can see, she's a bright energy to have in your sphere. If you're watching our YouTube channel, you can just see all the colors. And that's what I love about her. And then if you follow her on Instagram and LinkedIn, you'll see all the cute outfits that I'm talking about. She's just a great person to have in your sphere. If you're wanting positivity, you're wanting light, you want wisdom, because she has owned her business for about 23 years and she can really give you some sources and wisdom when it comes to navigating the ebb and flows of being a business owner. So thank you so much, Ruth, for coming on the Your Ateh podcast and really sharing your story and all the amazing nuggets you shared today.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so incredibly grateful to have someone like you in my life. And I look forward to so many more collaborations. And everyone who's watching, you've got to connect with this amazing human. She's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for listening. Bye.